Hello and welcome to Salty About Health. My name is Dalaney and I'm here with my mom and co-host, Mary. So, Mom, why are we salty about health?
Good question. It's because both of us have had struggles, some more serious than others, and no one showed us simple ways we could jump into the driver's seat and take control.
And why are we sharing our views with our listeners?
Well, because we want our listeners to realize that it may take time, but with some simple knowledge about health, they'll be able to make a few changes and dig deeper to take control of their well being and live a more vibrant life.
That's fantastic. But right now, before we get into all of that, we just need to do some housekeeping. Here we go. This is an opinion-based podcast. This is not in any way offered as a diagnosis or treatment for any disease, illness, or infirmity for physical or mental condition or any other condition you may have. We are not doctors or practitioners of any kind. Persons needing medical care should obtain it from a medical practitioner. So, consult your practitioner before making any health decision. The opinions offered here in this podcast are ours alone. Again, we're not doctors, and the banter you're going to be listening to is our view and our view alone. Okay, that's done. We, of course, also want to have an open dialogue with our listeners. So stay tuned to the end of the episode, and we'll let you know all of the ways that we can connect. Welcome everyone to episode 21 is what Mom tells me. And we are here with our friend Falyn, and we're just so excited to have you here for this special episode.
Yeah, we're actually all in one room. That's really special.
That is weird. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're never together. So we are actually in one room. And we have Falyn here, who is one of our fans, and she listens to our podcast. And she has a very interesting story. And we wanted to ask her what got her on her health journey and how she became her own health detective. That way, I think a lot of our listeners can relate because, some of us, we just don't know where to start or we're having problems. And, this Falyn's a great example of taking charge of her health. So I met Falyn where I work, and I did notice she was into physical training, a weightlifter, right?
A little bit.
Yeah. So Falyn's going to introduce herself, and then she's going to tell us, what kind of physical training that she did do and how she got into it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I can't even express how excited I am to be here and to think about how I have come to know Mary and now her daughter Dalaney. I think it's just wonderful how the world works and how we need to just be open-minded and go with our gut feeling about what we need to do to actually improve our health. So to go into a little bit about the physical training part and how I actually got into that, to be honest, I think it was really from my brother. He's 5 years older than me, and he was into lifting when we were younger. At my parents' old house, we had a gym downstairs. It was a bench, a couple of weights, a treadmill, and I saw him working out, so I wanted to work out too, and that's kind of where it started. And now it looks a little bit different. I was into sports in high school, not really lifting per se. In college, I lifted, but definitely not as consistently as I knew that I could have. However, after college, I really wanted to lift. I don't know, I had the energy to do so. I wanted to have it as a hobby, and I wanted to make it a consistent practice. So I actually started at Planet Fitness, and I spoke with the trainer there, who is a great friend of mine today, and she told me to try this 12-week program, and I actually went through and did the 12-week program. I completed the entire thing, and I saw extreme physical benefits. I felt better, and people noticed. And when people notice how you physically change in the positive direction, it's just a wonderful feeling. And I think that's actually what got me into being consistent. So it really grew from there. I transitioned into a private club and actually started to do bodybuilding training, and I just fell in love with it. I met a wonderful trainer who is now a best friend of mine, and I did 2 powerlifting meets. That was a lot of fun, and now my training looks a bit different. I train about 2 to 3 times a week instead of doing the 5 to 6. I am learning a lot more about my health and a lot more about being graceful with it, and that is pretty much how my training looks today.
So do you feel that you were overtraining before, or this just fits your lifestyle more, the 2 or 3 days a week?
I think right now, as we might get into, my body is currently healing, and I think that's pretty much all it can handle at the moment. It's recovering well with 3 times a week. And I don't think that we need to be training 5 to 6 times a week. We might have that spark in our mindset where you have to be training every single day, I have to do this and that. There's a couple people that I know that they are very heavy into the training side of things, and they might not see a large benefit to continue doing that because they're not giving their body enough grace and actually recovering from that training. So for right now, I absolutely enjoy the 3 days a week.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of research on that about overtraining and stressing your body out too much. So a lot of people are starting to pull back.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that human beings should be lifting weights even. I think it's not really meant in our nature to be heavily lifting things. We need to be physically active. I am fully supportive of that, but in a way that is not too much.
Yeah, I think it used to be more natural way back when. It was just someone got their physique from a certain job that they were doing, like if they were working at the shipyard or this or that, and they did the same motion. I think that's what kind of created lifting weights, is like they're lifting heavy objects, so people did it in their free time, and it's evolved to what it is today. In my opinion, that's me.
They're like, ooh, I want to look like the shipbuilder.
Yeah,
How can
I mean,
do that?
You do have different body types, right? If you look at someone like in sports, you're like, oh, like a swimmer bod, like nice big shoulders and like tiny little legs, and I don't know, stuff like that.
Her best friend likes swimmers.
Yes, she is a swimmer, and that is her type. So,
Okay.
but I mean, wrestlers, right? They're like all
Right.
bulk. So, yeah.
Okay, so what was the catalyst then for you to start actually paying more attention to your health? And, just weightlifting didn't equal health for you, right? So other things started happening. So what would be the catalyst for that? Where you're like, maybe I need to, look into this, or maybe not eat this, or, maybe foods are an issue,
I feel like that's a pretty complex question. I don't think that there is one specific catalyst that kind of sticks out in my mind. There are actually several people in my life that have been a catalyst in a way to help me improve myself. Like I had mentioned before, the woman at Planet Fitness was definitely a catalyst into pushing me in a direction of, according to my body type, what program might be best for me, according to what I explained my goals were. And there was actually another movement or a shift in my mind that was probably a really traumatic experience. It was a very bad breakup. However, it was just a blessing in disguise, I think, now. And it definitely is a symbolic catalyst for me to kind of improve my health. Now, I will say, I wanted to improve my health physically first. It wasn't anything mentally related. It was, I wanted to look good, I wanted to be jacked, and I wanted to be lean. And I think
that's truthful.
I think that society pushes us in that direction, and I allowed society to kind of grasp at me that way for a little while. And it ended up, I fell off a mountain, if you will, and now I'm kind of reevaluating things. But that's definitely not the direction to go. And I think that just these little instances of, if I, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, as we kind of go along in this episode, but if I would remove a particular food, or if I would eat what I would quote unquote call healthy, and say I eat something poorer than a pizza or a Pop-Tart, M&Ms, whatever, I felt really bad. So I feel like the catalyst in me kind of disciplining myself to eat healthy for a time period, and then, snack on something that was at a party event or something my parents had in the cabinet, was definitely just a mind-blowing experience over and over again that it took me a while to actually grasp.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Takes a lot of,
If they would do kind of an elimination diet or eat healthy, their body really screams at them when they then not eat healthy and they take those M&Ms in. And people don't realize that because most people are just chronically inflamed. So if you're eating McDonald's or, I'm not to, trash them, but fast food, eating fast food every day and packaged food and high sugar foods with actually no nutrition, these people are inflamed all the time, so there's not that reaction. But when you actually clean up your diet and you eat healthy, whole food, and then you try to eat that kind of stuff, your body will definitely let you know.
Right. I absolutely saw that. I specifically tried this LEAP protocol from a test that I did. It was basically an elimination diet. Now, it was a little bit restrictive. However, it really brought an awareness around what actually my body does not agree with. So it's a really great point. And I think everyone should actually allow their body to try that.
Yeah, I think everybody should go on just real whole food, kind of do an elimination diet, take out the 5 most problematic foods, which would be wheat, corn, soy, dairy,
right,
sugar,
and
nuts, and whatever. But you can look that up on the internet, and when they take those out, plus all the junk food. I mean, we know that if it comes out of a package, I mean, come on, if it's over processed, you probably shouldn't be eating it. But it is hard to transition to a whole food diet.
Yeah. I think it's an addiction too, and I think we have to talk about that. So that's the mental side, right, of getting into that health. It's not just the physical. We're all addicted to that processed food.
Well, and the food chemists make it that way.
Yes, it's purposeful. We can get into that at a later time, but we're dealing with the side effects regardless. So I think people beat up on themselves when they can't quit, and it's just like smoking or doing any other like addictive thing. So I think people need to work through that process and not be so hard on themselves.
So how did you handle that then, Falyn, when your body started screaming at you, when you did go ahead and, you cleaned up your diet, but then once in a while you'd grab something else? And you said it's funny because you said it took you how many times to be hit over the head with that, and that is human nature.
So
that is human nature.
It's so hard. It's like you don't want to actually believe this is true. It's like I have such a craving for sugar. I can't get over it. But if you give yourself 2 weeks without doing anything sugar related, for as an example, sugar in general, I think you will absolutely find that it's just a little hurdle that you have to get over. And then after you're over that, it's kind of like freedom. I mean, if you just give yourself some grace and a little bit of discipline, you will be astounded by how much your body can heal itself, how your cravings are kind of put under the rug, and it's just really cool to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. You said that perfectly. Yep. So what is some valuable information that you have learned, which we've just kind of talked about, on your health journey that you have applied to your everyday life, and how has it helped you out? So tell us, I mean, you said you gave yourself some grace and stuff, but really, what do you want to tell our listeners? Give them some examples of exactly how to conquer that.
Mm-hmm. So I actually made a list of a couple things that really stuck out to me of maybe my original perception of food or fitness in general, and kind of how that changed. So I think one of the large ones was that fat does not actually make you fat. When I was younger,
Yay,
I used
true.
to think
Good
that I would buy all the non-fat items, and it's just something from the media that said this is what you should do. So it was on the shelves everywhere, and that's what we did. But the funny thing is that we absolutely need fat. We need those healthy fats to actually support our cognitive health and just overall well-being. We can't function right without them. So
And
that was definitely a big one.
That and our ancestors always ate that way.
Yeah.
And again, we could go back to the 50s and the studies that came out about fat and how false they were, and how Ansel Keys and everybody else just kind of flipped that. And, then they sold things. And if you take fat out of food, what do you have to add? You have to add a lot of sugar to make it taste good. Right.
So that was a very large one there. The other one is that, just because someone looks physically fit does not mean that they're happy or even healthy inside.
Bingo.
Yes.
Let me just talk to that for a minute, because as a middle-aged woman, you go to the doctor complaining and they just say, oh, you're just depressed, or you're just, a middle-aged woman. And
to quote my favorite other podcast, cheer up, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. And you just, that there is something wrong, and they just look at you, and literally I've had doctors just tell me, well, you look healthy. Okay, I could go to medical school. Yeah, is that all you have to say? Is you look healthy?
Literally the same exact thing happened to me earlier this year. I was having some concerns. I went to my family doctor. I said, look, I'm having, I'll just tell you listeners here, I'm having some weird body odor that I've never had before. I'm having some hair loss here. I'm not having regular periods. There's some other symptoms here, but that's pretty much what I explained. And he said, well, you look great. I don't really know how to help you. Do you want to spend $100 per hormone? Because I said it, I thought it was my hormones. Do you want to spend that money to test out your hormones? And I didn't want to spend a couple $100. I didn't feel like that was the right direction to go. So I literally left that office so disappointed. I also went to my OBGYN. I said, look, I'm having this, this, and this. And I stopped this contraception on this date, and it seemed like these symptoms were starting. So she really didn't have anything to say for me, no encouraging words. She just said, well, what form of contraception do you want to be on next? Although I said on my form I was not active. I'll refer that. So that didn't feel right either. And so from the Western medicine side, I wasn't getting any answers. I was so frustrated until I landed in the functional medicine side of things. And, we can certainly go into that, but it's absolutely changed my life and created such a passion that I've actually am in the midst of becoming a practitioner in the functional medicine side of things.
And it's, it's sad that you had to go through this, but it's a great gain for functional medicine, because I think, my journey was the same. I was so sick, and Western medicine and allopathic medicine, as we call it, didn't want to help. And so you go on your own health journey, and that's what Dalaney and I always say. You should be your own health detective. And I used to be angry, but it's not their fault. It's a
broken system.
Exactly.
Because so with my sports-induced asthma, I knew how to say what I needed to say only to get them to give me an inhaler, because I had tryouts for my college team 2 weeks later. So I was like, I just needed a Band-Aid, and Mom and I were going to start doing food stuff on our own, but I was just like, I have shortness of breath when I exercise. You need to give me an inhaler. And he was just like, okay. Didn't take my blood, no tests. He was just like, okay, here you go. I was like, great, thanks. Bye. I know you're busy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, what is it? Diagnose and adios is what they say.
I love that.
And they're looking for a prescription to give you. Yes. Literally, when you're most, so we shouldn't put them all, but most doctors, they listen to your symptoms and they're thinking of the drug that they can give you to lessen that symptom or take it away. Unfortunately, down the line it could cause more symptoms, and it's not fixing the problem, and it is a Band-Aid. So functional medicine, on the other hand, is totally the opposite. It looks at the whole body and tries to figure out why exactly this is happening and fix that problem. Yeah, I guess we were just bashing on the medical system, but that is how it is, and that's how they train them.
I mean, because then we can
And
relate that to government and how that's like a big, giant, slow dinosaur as well. So it's just like it's a big system that has been set up and it's stuck. And I feel bad for the people who have to work in it sometimes because they can't do anything about it.
They have great intentions. They're in the health side of things.
They want to help people.
And it's unfortunate. But I think as new things are emerging, I feel like functional medicine is kind of just becoming more in the now, or people are learning about it more.
I think at the beginning of the century, the 1900s, there was functional medicine, and I mean you can get into the politics of that too, and they had to decide and where the money was, and they went with allopathic medicine, the Carnegies and all this. I mean, if you read all this, and because even in the Merck manual, they had coffee enemas up until I think 1973. Mm-hmm. And then they just took them out. I mean, if you look at what functional medicine is today, they're doing things that they've done for 2,000 years. Whether it is, what are the packs that we do? I always want to say rice. It's
the oil.
Yeah, the castor oil packs. I've had ozone therapy. That's what they used to do before antibiotics were created. So I've had my blood drawn, ozonated, and then put back through a UV filter because I was so sick. But that's nothing new. You'd think it would be, but no, in the 1950s when they came out with antibiotics and all that, well, we don't need to kill bacteria that way. We've got antibiotics, and we know what that's doing to us now in our gut, etc. So all these techniques have been around. It's just we're finding that, and how would you say it? Delaney's so diplomatically correct, that what we started to do in modern medicine just isn't working.
Right. And I in my head this whole time we've been talking as an engineer, I've just been thinking it's kind of like the combustion engine. We've gotten to the point where we're like, this is the way that we've always done it, but people are realizing we're going to run out of fuel for it and this and that. We need to find another way. So I think health is at that point too. It's this big system isn't working. We need to find another way. We need to do it some other way.
Well, and I think we're going back to what used to work.
Yes, yeah.
Don't recreate the wheel.
Right. Yeah, we do that at work all the time. It's you're like, oh, this really cool complex thing. It's or we could put a spring in there and be done. So sometimes back to basics is good.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a couple other items I
have
on my list. So there's one to say that you're busy, but there's another one to say that you're productive. And I think for the longest time, I kind of was hiding behind that. I am so busy. I cannot hang out with people. I'm doing this and that. And I wasn't that productive in my opinion. I was just kind of hiding. I was fearful and just hiding behind the busyness, if you will. And I think that a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people do not have the courage, and maybe it was just a conditional thing in their life that maybe something traumatic happened and now they don't even want to go near that, they don't want to touch that, and they're just stuck in their suck fest, to be frank with you. And it's very unfortunate, and I think we have a duty to ourselves and to everyone in the actual world around us that we need to have the courage to actually be our own health detective and actually just do good things. We need more good people, and we need you to be courageous about your own life.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally. That was well said.
Yes. Yeah.
Just one more thing that we might have alluded to a little bit earlier. You may overall think that you're eating a healthy diet, but maybe you still have symptoms of uncomfortable bloating. Maybe you have some IBS, irregular periods, brain fog, extreme fatigue. All of these things that we might label them right now as normal are definitely not normal. I think that normal is definitely a thing that, I don't know, maybe if you guys want to help me here, it become the new norm, but it's not actually normal. We are not supposed to have intestinal distress. We are not supposed to have brain fog. We're not supposed to have any of this, and we just look at it as normal. We take a Tums, and here it is. There we go.
And that's because of the commercials you see every night on TV. Oh, are you feeling this or that? Just take this pill.
Yeah.
Which is not legal in other countries. Did you know that? In other countries, they're not allowed to advertise prescriptions on like TV and radio.
Except I think in Australia they might be able to. There's
might
one
be the
other
one where
country
they're
that can.
not. Okay.
No, yeah, but you're right.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. We sell our drugs to our population, and then we have people walk into the doctor's office and say, "Well, I want this pill."
Yeah.
And that's not the right approach.
Yeah. But then
Because go ahead.
Oh no, just with the normal, I think it's just we get, like you were saying, we just get stuck. So we need to see normal as abnormal and like actually go to what feels right.
We do the opposite in the society, and as Falyn just said, it's not normal. When you get older, and I get that every day from clients, well, I'm just getting old. I'm just getting this. No. It's not normal. And you need to figure out the reason that happens. Now, I was going to say it is normal but what something is normal, they'll tell you it's not normal. Like if you had a death in the family, or as Falyn had a bad breakup or a divorce or anything, it is normal to be depressed.
Yes, and have physical side effects from that emotional thing.
Yes. That is so normal. But go to a doctor, and what are they going to tell you? Oh, that's not normal. Here, take these antidepressants. Now, if this lasted an extended period of time, or, there are certain times when it's not normal and you can't pull yourself out of it. But, oh my gosh, if something horrible happens to you, yeah, you should cry. You should be a little depressed. You should be very sad. And you should express those feelings too, which is always good. Okay, we got a little off track, but that's
we're
what
gonna
we
climb
do.
back out of that hole.
So, Falyn's going to tell us why it is important to pay attention to your health.
I believe we've probably all heard the term that health is wealth. If you don't have your health, you literally can't live.
That's a good one.
You cannot help support yourself. You can't support your family members, which I'm sure you care deeply about. You can't support anyone if you are not in a good state of health. I mean, we're seeing that a lot today. A lot of people are unhealthy. And again, that is looked at as normal. I see it with my family, and it's so frustrating and disheartening, and I feel bad, and I do everything that I can to try to help them with their health. But the truth is that...
How does that work? Especially with family members.
I will read the book, Mom.
It's tough, but a lot of people, they just want the best thing for you, and I think there's just so much controversy, and we want to look at things as black and white, and we just can't, because there's, we are just so complex. The world is so complex, so we just have to continue learning. We have to continue growing and be the healthiest person that we know it to be. I mean, my health is completely different than a couple years ago, and I thought I had a good understanding of what health was then. I had no understanding of it, and it was until I actually continued growing and learning and connecting with people that have the same mentality of just helping themselves and another person. I think that we absolutely need to do that. Every single one of us, we have a duty to ourselves and everyone around us to be the best that we can. So I think health is wealth.
Yeah, and I like how you said you connected with people with the same interests, and we're going through the same thing. And I think we do need to do that, because if you go up to someone who, I talk to people every day, I go, well, how are you feeling, or how's your health? And they're like, oh, great. And you say, well, are you on any prescription drugs? Oh, yeah, the usual, high blood pressure, diabetic. It's, the sugar, the high blood pressure, and the, cholesterol, those three. And you think, wow, well, that's actually not normal. So, but in our society, they definitely think that's normal. So it's, as Falyn said, you should connect with people. When you get that epiphany that's probably not normal, and there are some people functioning without those medications, and then you start connecting with those people, I think that's gold, because those are the people who are going to support you and give you the ideas and send you down the rabbit holes you need to go down to figure out what is going on and how to maybe get off those medications or never be on them. I mean, go into, at my age, go into a doctor office or your grandparents' age and tell them that you're not taking any prescription medication. They don't like that. They go, oh, wait, something must be wrong, you know, and they will find something. They will find something to put you on. Yeah. What advice do you have for others who want to start paying more attention to their health? And I think, you know, we've kind of said this, but Falyn's had such great, wonderful ideas, and she puts them perfectly.
Can we back up for a moment? I flipped my paper here, and I have 2 examples that might get people thinking a little bit more about why they should care so much about their health. So if you don't mind, I was going to give 2 examples.
Oh,
fantastic.
Go ahead.
Okay. So say that someone is eating a terrible diet all their life, their heart is in poor condition, maybe they're driving somewhere, maybe they're going to the grocery store, it doesn't really matter, but they have a heart attack in the car. There's an accident that happens clearly. This person kills 10 other people.
Oh, wow. Isn't there? Okay.
And that's scary.
That affects, I mean, I'm being extremely blunt here, but I want you guys to just see how much your health and you taking care of yourself can impact, for example, these 10 people, their families, their friends, and all of that. I mean, if you cannot look at that and see that there's a problem there, then we might be doomed.
Yeah.
That's just one example.
Well, that's good. I think that shows like this year has shown, you know, everyone's like freaking out about cleanliness. It's like you should always be like a good hygienic person. Like you're telling me you didn't like used to wash your hands and like, you
yes,
know,
but we don't want
clean up after yourself.
We don't
Not
want
extreme.
Overdo it either, because the only way we educate our immune system is being exposed.
We do. Yeah. But don't be a slob and live in it and then, you know, kill yourself from and affect other people with that too. I think that's the same point.
And I think all 3 of us ladies here, we understand that stuff does happen. I mean, we can only control what we can control, but I feel like there's a huge amount of things that we can control, and we need to control it as best as we can. Does that make sense?
I agree, but we can get into the way people think and the way people understand. I mean, I think when you take a business class, there are 3 ways to sell to people because their minds work differently. So I think there needs to be different approaches for people to figure out how we can let them know that it's very important that they take care of their health. Because as a health coach, that's the hardest thing for me to do. Some people are right on, like you were, Falyn. You're just like, if I said any kind of information, you ran with it, and you had read, 5 other books to come back. And not everybody's like that, unfortunately. I mean, it'd be great. Some people just, they need some kind of other approach to get them to kickstart them. But also what you were saying about, the having a heart attack. Also, when you don't take care of your health and the people who are very cavalier about it, you have to realize in the long run, unfortunately, it most likely will catch up with you. And when it does, who is going to take care of you? And that's my thing, is I don't think that's fair to the people you love or are with. Yeah. And I told Dalaney this long ago. I mean, I try to take care of my...
funny.
I try to take care of my health. But if something happens, duct tape me to a chair and just leave me in a room. I do not expect her, to have to be, taking care of me. But yes, there are unforeseen problems or things that happen. Mm-hmm. But if I knowingly am destroying my health, no, I would feel guilty that, okay, now what? Look at her and go, okay, now you got to take care of me because I didn't take care of myself. That is what gets to me. And I think it's very unfair to the people that you love.
It is.
But yes, sometimes there are unforeseeable circumstances.
Such as my husband's grandmother is now 105 and his mom is still taking care of her. Did they expect her to live to 105? No. And does it take up a lot of her day? Like,
it does, but they're very blessed to have her because she's a Spitfire and they love her dearly. But yes, that's
unforeseen. To me, that's unforeseen. You can't plan
different.
for that.
Yeah, and she does take care of herself. You know, the grandmother tries. You know, so that is unforeseen. But for the people who don't. Mm-hmm. Like if she were not to, and she just expected it from, you know, because she smoked and drank, and which some people can get away with. If you look at the genetics, they can get away with that. But if you do things that, you know, are detrimental to your health, and just expect other people to take care of it,
it's very Ebenezer Scrooge, right? Like he pushed everyone away, and then when he, you know, found himself old and alone when he went with the future to look at that, that's what happens. Right. It's real. That's why they wrote about it back then.
I watched that the other night. Oh my gosh. That's my favorite movie.
I actually have not watched any Christmas movies. Maybe on Lifetime. I'm not a TV buff. I just can't do it anymore.
We have I don't have
DVDs
that we watch over and over.
I don't have TV either. But, yeah, but I didn't get to watch my DVDs last year, so this year I did.
That's good.
I'm excited. Sorry. Okay, we're gonna let Falyn continue.
The other example I have is a quite large one, and just to remind you, the actual question was, why do you feel it's important to pay attention to your health? I think I'm going to bring it back to the family aspect. If you're a woman and you intend to be pregnant, and I think there's a huge lack of education of trying to just teach mothers how to not be stressed when they're pregnant, or maybe what to eat, or maybe what supplements that would support a healthy pregnancy. And it's very unfortunate, but then when the child comes out of the mother, you know, they are already predisposed or traumatized from something that might have occurred while they were in the womb. And I think there's a huge lack of education on that. And so it's just generation after generation of trauma, and it's very unfortunate. I've seen it with a couple close friends of mine that maybe before the pregnancy they thought that they were overall healthy. After the pregnancy they have thyroid problems. Now they're on medication. And it's things that may have been going on but prior to having the child, but they weren't aware of it, they weren't really taught it. But having a child is an extremely stressful process. So after childbirth, you know, maybe their body isn't functioning as well. It tipped them over the mountain, and now they have to try to get their health back in some fashion. And I just think there's a huge lack of education on that, and it's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, that you brought up a great point, and that would be another episode for us. Generational energy, things like that. If your, you know, great grandfather worked in the steel mill, actually they see that in your DNA, high metal, things like that. And they did an experiment. I was reading the other day, and I forget what kind of animal it was, but they did something when I think they fed it something, and then they did negative reinforcement, and then they stopped doing that. They just did it to the one generation of animals, and it lasted for 2 generations. All they had to do is put that type of food down, and the animal was afraid of it. So that's a very valid point. It'd be a great episode one time.
Yeah.
But yes, we should realize things like that.
Those were my 2 examples. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So in closing, what advice do you have for others who want to start paying more attention to your health? I mean, you've said a lot of great things, but really just make it simple for our listeners. Like, what were the easiest things for you to change at first? Because I think when you see change and it's helpful, then you continue.
I'll admit I have a couple things written down here, and I think it's just too complex, so I'm definitely going to keep it simple the way Mary instructed it too. I think really, diet, rest, and exercise are probably 2 or 3 of the most important things. I think at first, if we're trying to get into health, we don't need to make things too complicated. I mean, it's literally little by little. And I know right now I'm 27, and in this generation, we want everything right now. Let's go. Let's get it done. Usually I know that's how I am, so hopefully you guys can relate to that. But it's not how it is. We need to, once again, give our body grace and just continue learning and continue tweaking things. And I think if you can just go for a walk every single day for 30, 45 minutes, listen to something motivational, turn on YouTube. There's plenty of podcasts out there. Listen to this one. They spew out a heck of a lot of great content. It's just continuously learning. So that's a physical aspect. Go for a walk. Go to the gym twice a week. Lift some weights. There's plenty of YouTube videos to teach you how to lift some weights if you have zero clue how to do it. But it will start to make you feel better, and you don't need to overdo it. Once again, tweaking things little by little. Same thing with your diet. Making sure there's a high quality protein source in there. Protein is absolutely essential for every single person. It has the amino acids in there that our body needs to function right. You need to eat it. That's very simple. I hate how people try to get around it. You cannot. The other thing as far as diet is what we had alluded to before about consuming healthy fats. Avocados are great.
Huge, yeah. It's huge to have healthy fats in your diet. I mean, if you like nuts, macadamia nuts or, whatever, but that, you literally, your brain can't function without healthy fats. Your hormones cannot function without healthy fats.
Right. So we have the activity part covered. We have the diet part kind of covered. The last thing I would stress is actually the sleep component. Now, what the heck does that mean? I didn't know it that bad. I ran my body into the ground. I was like, oh my gosh, I can get so much done. Let's stay up later and wake up earlier. And let's try that for a couple years. That did not work. You need to have quality sleep for your body to continue to actually function. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're a very driven woman like myself, but it actually will help you move further in life. So I think the actual activity level, your diet, and resting are key components if you're trying to get into a better health state for yourself.
Yeah, and when we rest, we repair. When you sleep, you repair. Your body can't repair itself without rest.
Right.
Definitely.
I can go into a heck of a lot of other things, but I think let's keep it simple with those 3 things. You can always feel free to reach out to any of us, and we'd be happy to kind of go into more complex detail if you actually want more things to take under your belt and improve.
But let them know too how they can reach you.
Absolutely. I am on Instagram at Falyn, Falyn Hunter Morningstar. Again, that is at Falyn Hunter Morningstar. You can also find me on Facebook, Falyn Morningstar. Thank you so much. I appreciate this time, and I'm just super excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. This was great.
This was great. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. And again, we want to hear from you guys. We always want to hear from you guys. Please, please, please reach out to us. And here are just a few ways that you can do that. You can reach out via Instagram and Facebook. Find us at Salty About Health. Even Snapchat at Salty Health. You can email us at saltyabouthealth@gmail.com. Or if you just want to find all that in one place, check out our website, saltyabouthealth.com. We've got all the ways for you to listen and connect there. And finally, if you like what you hear today, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. We really appreciate it. So, Mom, if they want to hear from you on social media, where can they find you?
Okay, I am a certified health coach, and I do coach one-on-one. So if you're interested, you can contact me at mary@feedyourselfhealthy.com. I also do research for people who are interested in finding alternative approaches to do in conjunction with the health issue or illness their doctor is treating them for. So again, just reach out to me at Mary at feedyourselfhealthy.com. That's where they can find me.
Cool. Okay. And of course, I'll be the one mainly keeping an eye on the social media. So always happy to chat with you guys via the Salty Network. Also, just want to shout out our intro and outro music. It is by Yule, and you can find her at www.yulearts.com. That's EULARTS. You can also find her on Instagram at Yule_arts or Spotify and YouTube. Check her out. Her piano music and everything else is amazing. And until next time, stay salty.
Stay salty.